Hey, this is Dr. Pete, and I got kind of an interesting mix of things. I got two students saying different things, and they were asking questions about professor interaction. And I thought it was interesting. It's like a tale of two students, and they have different philosophies on things. As any, if we took 10 students, there'd be 10 different perspectives. So it was just one, they were just so striking and so different that it really gave me the idea because both of them wanted a video in the sense of where they're coming from. So, given that, I wanted to highlight how to interact with professors. I've done videos a little bit before on that, but just to emphasize it and keep it current, we have one student who really took a perspective of negativity. In other words, I'm going to turn you in, I'm going to complain, blah, 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 blah. And it just, it's like threats, okay? And we have one student that is more, hey, I had questions, but hey, I've really learned a lot out of this class and I'm getting this, this, and that out of it. And I just need a little bit of help here. And they're two different perspectives and kind of reminds me, how do you attract a bee? Do you put vinegar out or honey? Which one do you do? And it was just very contrasting. A couple things is that typically when people resort in being very negative, like I'm going to turn you in, I'm going to basically try to attack you and destroy your career or hurt your standing at the school, that is more of a reflection, either one of insecurities, stress in their own lives. There's a lot of projection, they call it. That's a defensive mechanism. And so you're projecting onto other people, and words mean things. And I've done that video where you may make a statement that means something to you, but because you don't know what the words mean, an administrator may see it as, oh my God, there's something drastic going on. Then when they look at it, they go, well, that's not really drastic. There's videos and there's feedback and there's all these things here. Actually, there's a lot of feedback and there's a lot of emails and this and that, whatever. And so then the question is does the administrator or the professor say, look, you need to be professional? Just because the internet as a whole, we can post things anonymously and be ugly or rude or disrespectful or unprofessional doesn't mean that that flows over into a classroom. Look at it more as a boss versus an employee or a supervisor, manager over an employee. See it that way, okay? Because sometimes people they mistaken that there's like this peer thing going on, like we're equals, and I'm just here as an equal, and we're all just kind of talking, hanging out, and having a good time. I want everyone to have a good time. I want people to enjoy the class, but at the end of the day, there's a leader, okay? And just like anywhere else, if you're in a leadership position, you don't want people going around saying, well, just because I don't like something, now I'm going to try to subvert this or do this or be ugly or whatever. People don't like that. Okay. And that's just a normal human condition. Having said that, I want to emphasize the positives. With this one student, it's really great. I mean, the person comes in, they talk about the things they've learned and excelled at. They want to know things that they can do better at. They're open to what the professor's saying, and it allows you to say, look, yes, there are some things professors like. Okay, it's just the way it works. I mean, this is not a big secret. I mean, we're all human beings, right? Okay, so it's not a big secret. So when someone says that as if it's insightful, I kind of have to laugh like, well, that's a secret. Well, thanks thanks for sharing it. But like I said before, no one wants to hear about what the last girlfriend did or the last boyfriend did, depending on what gender you are. No one wants to hear about that. So it's okay to say, I understand. Maybe address it from this perspective. I know you. I know that you like certain things. Do you mind if I have a paper that you particularly think is good? Or are there some things that you think that I should focus on? You're basically saying the same thing, but in a much nicer way, a respectful way. Okay. And then if it doesn't agree with you and you got to alter it a little bit, that doesn't mean that now I'm going to complain, not do it, do it, but make sure everyone knows I'm miserable doing it, or report it to the dean and all that. That's silly. That's just not the way it works. So the best advice I can give is this one student's being very positive, supportive, and all that. Well, then we start talking about things, and then I say, hey, I got this really good paper I can send you, and hey, do you have any other questions? And 30 minutes later, we're still talking on the phone because they realize there's so much more a professor can offer them. Okay, and they're open to the idea that maybe there are differences in each class, but each one builds to something new and better and stronger. And so what I've always found is those students will call me back 6 months, a year, maybe after graduation, and talk about how good they did, how much they got out of their education. That also goes back to that video about the checklist students versus the one that really truly explore education. The checklist student doesn't like differences because they're used to checking off things quickly, and they want to get done quickly because they really just are getting a checklist. They're just checking the boxes to graduate. The other student that sits there and alternates and changes things and innovative and open to suggestion, those students tend to get the most out of it because they're there to learn and go through the process of learning, of writing, research, analysis, information, those things. And so it's very interesting to see the difference between students. And when I'm talking to them, I quickly have to figure out which one they are. Once I figure that out, then I know how to talk to them. And hopefully this video helps define this. If a professor's on the bubble with something, what they're going to do, this is what they do, okay? If someone has constantly berated them and been negative, and we got to follow every rule, and every rule has to be followed, well, then when something happens, like it looks like plagiarism or the grades on the bubble, they're going to play by the rules. Sorry, got to turn you over to academic review and give you a 0. Not out of my control, which that's true. It is a true statement. It is the rules of most colleges. Having said that, if a student is doing very well and maybe just had a bad day, or maybe they're been positive and they're really struggling to learn, then the professor may say, well, there are other rules that I can follow, which are I'm going to make this a learning lesson, and I'm going to call the student or email them and work through it and really give them an opportunity to be successful. So they're technically true too. So you can see how the way the student interacts with the professors typically helps push the professor which rules are going to be invoked. So that's very important. And they say, well, that's not fair. That's not fair. No, it is fair. That's how it works. If someone wants to follow strictly the rules, then they can follow the rules. And that's not probably what you want. What comes out is I want the rules that benefit me to help, but I don't want you to use any of the negative rules. And that's typically, it's very self-serving. And so the rules only get you so far. The good attitude gets you a lot further. And then on top of that, that openness really helps to learn and grade and learn the information and develop the skills. That's very, very important, very, very critical. So that's just a little bit of advice from the two students that I've been having, and because of the contrasting. And I think it's an excellent request by both of them. But having said that, the best advice I can give you on this one is, yes, sometimes you have really bad professors, and yes, there are students that think I'm one of them, and I'm okay with that. If I have 100 students, I'm sure there's about 5 of them that just think I'm like not the Antichrist, but maybe like a henchman of them, or a horrible person, likened to some of the most evil people in history. Okay, I get that. I totally get that. But that's just statistics. It's going to happen. On the other side, I have people that think I do a great job, and they just because whatever, it doesn't matter. I could really be doing a bad job and they think I'm doing a good job. That's just statistics. The key is, what are we doing in the bulk? What are the bulk of students thinking? What are they wanting? What are they doing? And that's where we're at. So again, even if you run across a bad professor, however you define it, take the time, communicate with them, try to interact with them, be positive. And if they're not grading your work on time, emailing you back, things like that, yes, it's time to get the school involved. But if it's just something you don't like, like one student they didn't want to put a name of a student in a student post. I mean, well, whatever, don't do it. I don't care. I mean, it's just I'm trying to tell you how we have conversations. And if you don't want to do it, fine, whatever. But that doesn't mean that I'm a horrible person or you're a bad person. It just means, look, I'm giving you advice. Do it or don't. But I'm just giving you advice. So take that for what it is. We may disagree about things, but that doesn't mean the other person's a bad person, okay? And that's really what needs to be done here. That's the good advice. Just stay positive, be professional. Look, you only got the professor so long. Get the most out of it you can. You know what you need to do. Get it done and move on. It's that simple. So anyways, a lot of words on the same topic, but I think it'll reinforce that idea of what to do in the class. I appreciate it, and thank you for the ideas.